All right, ready? Okay. Setting yourself up for success. So we talked about church government in an earlier session. I want to talk a bit about strong budgets, about budgets. Once again, I find the ultimate paradox in an American standing in Ireland talking about money. But my wife and I have been here for 5 years in Northern Ireland, and we watched God bless the church in the area of finances. And it wasn't always the same way every year he did it. It would always come from different means and different places. And one of the things you'll be trained on is how to fundraise and how to believe for and set yourself up for success also when it comes to that area. But today I want to talk more about what to do with the income once it's there, or as you believe in it comes there. So I want to begin with you thinking about three strong budgets. Three strong budgets. The first one is your personal budget. When we look at a church planter and someone planting a church, one of the things we look at assessing someone is looking at how they've handled their personal finances. Again, if God could entrust you with the little that he gave you, then he can trust you to lead an organization, which is going to have a lot more. So think about your own personal budget. I look to Scripture and I see a few things. Luke chapter 16, verse 10, I like the Message version. Jesus went on to make these comments. If you're honest in small things, you'll be honest in big things. If you're a crook in small things, you'll be a crook in big things. And the last thing we need is more crooks in the world we're in. If you're not honest in small jobs, who will put you in charge of the store? No worker can serve two bosses who either hate the first, love the second, or adore the first and despise the second. So, personal budget. What does it take to get your household through a month? What does it take your household to get from that moment you step out on faith and move to a town and say, I'm going to plant a church, to the first day? How much is it going to take? What is the moving expense going to be for you to move? Saying you are moving to a city to plant a church. You're not going to have church the first Sunday you move there. And the church planting organization that helps you, in our instance, like ARC, we would give you a launch budget, and you would have matching funds from your sending church. And somehow, in all of that, there needs to be your personal expense and how that's going to happen for you to move, to relocate. What's your household budget going to be? So 3 strong budgets. Have a strong personal budget. I talked about church government earlier. You don't want to be on the phone to your overseers talking about how you're having to get food vouchers that week. You're only talking about how can I reach people. All right, a second budget is launch budget. What's it going to take to start your church with excellence on the first day? On the first day. And I said excellence. And why do we say excellence? Why do we talk about excellence? And you've gone through a lot of training. I'm sure you've heard a lot of good stuff. One way we put it is we value excellence because we love people. We value excellence because we love people. When I looked to 1 Kings chapter 10, the Queen of Sheba showed up to see Solomon, and she said to him, "It was a true report which I heard in my own land about your words and wisdom. However, I did not believe the words until I came and saw with my own eyes, and indeed the half was not told to me. Happy are your men, and happy are your servants who stand continually before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God." People are going to hear about your church, but you want them when they get there to see excellence. Excellence. And that's why we say you need to have excellence on your launch day. Daniel 6, verse 3. Then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other presidents because an excellent spirit was in him. So you want excellence on day one. You want an excellent spirit within you. Throughout the New Testament, Paul talked about in Philippians and Colossians about excellence. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, if there is any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. You want to be excellent. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Do this well. It may not be in your strong suit, but do it well. Philippians 1:9-10, it's my prayer that your love may abound more and more. We like that as pastors. Oh, my love may abound more and more. But with knowledge and all discernment, that you may approve what is excellent and pure and blameless for the day of Christ. And then Titus 2:7, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity. You want to have, how can you launch with excellence on opening day? Now, all of us before this season were not able to do that. We didn't have an ARC in Ireland that could fund our opening day, that could see us. We didn't all have an Assemblies of God partnering with a group like that we could see this happen for us. But you can have a great opening day, and we believe for that. We want people to hear about your church and show up and be wowed by it, like the Queen of Sheba. Half of what I heard, it wasn't even half as good as it is. And look at your people, look at the spirit on these people, and that takes a good budget. Here's a few things on your excellent budget for launch day. We kind of break it down. For just that day alone, for just that first weekend, advertising, 15%. Find a way to advertise. You need to advertise it. Equipment, 70%. You're going to need good equipment to start church on. If you're rolling in there with a 1982 overhead and somebody's up there doing the transparency sheets, come on, where are you at? Y'all were there, and they're flipping the pages for everybody. Okay? You need good equipment. And we'll talk a few moments about how to be wise about that. You don't just go buy all the best stuff, trick yourself out like the greatest nightclub in Dublin. And then the other 15% for development. All the processes, systems, all the bank, all these things need to be set up for day one. All of these things behind the scenes. And we would say for a great opening day, our belief is you need 50,000 pounds sterling for a great opening day, because you need your church equipment, you need to get to launch. So that's your second budget, your launch budget, and we have a broken down version of this when you come to our 2-day training that we're doing once or twice a year. We give you a broken down, sheet by sheet, what things should cost, what you're going to need. People have already done this before you. You don't have to create a car. You don't have to build it yourself. Somebody's already built a better wheel. But we can break down, and that money goes quickly once you start looking at different things. But it's things that will last, that will get you well past the first day. A third great budget is your church budget. The monthly church budget after launch. After your launch. This is so important. And we would say in this, the first 10% is missions. You want to set yourself, your church up and your ministry up and your staff up to understand that the first tenth of what comes into your church is going back into missions. And with ARC, we make that non-negotiable. The first tenth of what you get is going into a future ARC church plant. And that's in you giving your first 10% to ARC until your launch budget is fully repaid. So you're not paying ARC back, you're paying forward into the next person, maybe sitting in this room, into their launch day. And you're able to tell your church when they launch, we launched them. We did this. You guys did this. All right, so first 10%. Then a few things, facilities, 35%. 35%. Salaries, 35%. And ministry, 20%. Sometimes lay people see that 20% and get like offended. They're like, shouldn't 90% go to ministry? But, and this is not my notes, but the way the Holy Spirit works is God saves people, fills people, He equips people, He calls people. To do what? Get more people saved, equipped, filled, called. So really, your volunteer base is going to, and I would recommend to you, keep track of the hours they spend in community, keep track of hours they spend in serving. And what you find is what those people are doing with their time is quite a huge amount if you ever had to pay for it. And what our guys in Craigavon, they served 10,000 hours on the ground in the center of Craigavon in 5 years, not in church, on the ground. Combined 10,000 hours cleaning up neighborhoods, litter picks, going in prayer walks, 10,000 hours. What that contributed to the community was amazing. We have counselors in 3 major parties that love us now. They're like, oh, you're that church that comes in and cleans up the neighborhood 3 times a year. They just know. So even though you're putting 20% of the, initially here, of the funds towards ministry, towards youth budget, towards kids budget, towards women's ministry, and whatever it is you're doing, don't worry that those are going to grow. But initially, this is how it starts. And you want to budget your church after the first year. You want to budget the following year. You look at the income that came in the year before, and you would try to budget on 90% of what came in. What this does is it's not you assuming the church is going to grow year 2. It's also not assuming the economy is going to get better. It's saying we got this much in last year. Let's live off 90% of what came in last year. Let's try to live off that. And then we can do great outreach, great new ministry events with what extra comes in. What you don't want is your commitments with your facility, with your staffing, with your church database, with all these different bits and pieces. You don't want your commitments to take you into the red, okay? You want those things to fall within a reasonable budget. That way, when more comes in, you're able to pray about it, take it to whoever in your church that you work with on some of these things, and let's do something great. Let's do some more things for God here. So that's 3 strong budgets you need: your personal budget, your launch budget, and your church budget. And again, we help you with that. We give you great line by line what things should look like when it comes to a church budget. We help you with that. So really your challenge then from there is to set up some systems. Set up some systems. So a few things about that. You need checks and balances. You need a clear dashboard, a clear way to see how much money's coming in and how it's being spent. What's keeping within budget. You need a clear way for that. And how is each part of the process doing? And then have up-to-date information so you can make good decisions. And again, this is something in training we help you with, provide you with. This is something when you're getting coached towards launch day, if you're like me, you're asking the next guy, what do you use? What's your database? What's your church database? Not just for keeping addresses, but how do you keep all your budgets? And you find that out, and you probably find 2 or 3 different ones in your people that are also launching around the same time or just ahead of you, and you're able to make some wise decisions. You could then take to your church government and say, this is what we're using. And then you're able to not have people ringing you up saying, hey, I need 1,000 more for my youth event. Can we do it? And you're thinking, I have no idea. You have some better checks and balances, better systems set up than that. Because if you don't have a system, somebody else will give you a system. Your youth director will give you a system. They'll just text you. That'll be their system. Your sound lights guy, they'll have a system for you. They'll send you a receipt. That'll be their system. You know what I'm saying? I need a reimbursement. I bought this huge thing, this light that spins around, and it's going to bring people to Jesus. So got to get some smoke now, some haze. No, these are great things you're going to need, but give them a system before they make a system up for you. Okay? Again, you want to set the expectation yourself so that you're not setting up for conflict and disappointment. Another thing with this systems is consider outsourcing. Consider outsourcing some of your systems. Consider outsourcing when it comes to tax back. With some of these different organizations that have now set up online giving, they do that for you as well. Consider outsourcing some of these things. Consider outsourcing. Even when it comes to some of your AVI needs, consider looking to someone else that maybe is doing it better than you, maybe able to do it cheaper than you. A third thing, when it comes to systems, you're not going to need a system if income isn't coming into it, right? So just a few things. Connecting with those that are giving is very important. You're not just managing a budget. You're stewarding something that God is entrusting you with. So it's very important in the midst of all that to keep connecting with givers. Let them know how it's going. Let that 60-year-old granny know. She's never been to youth group before, but let her know about a life change story. Let her know. Connect with givers. Give those givers clear vision. Find a way to communicate with the givers in your church, whether we do an email, to a certain number of people, and we keep them updated about exciting things that have been happening and testimonies. We also do a meeting every couple of months with people that we've really designated as part of our core. They're members, they're committed. Also in your new members class, be sure to bring some of this into your language. Again, you're setting up expectation from day one. This is what we're believing God to do, and this is how you can help. You don't want them in there for a year and they've never heard about tithing. They've never understood. You want them, like, when they come join the church, this is what we do. This is what a lot of folks in church do. This is what we believe the Bible teaches us to do, and this is what we're doing with it. So at new members class, be sure to put some language around that of how the money in the church is, how it's overseen. Let them know about your audit you do every year. Let them know about how many years you've been at it, or maybe you have to count days. But let them know how long you've been at it and what God's doing, and share baptisms and conversions. Share those things. Share that fruit with the church. And listen to people who do it well. Some people do this really, really well. And so you want to listen to those. You can go onto your iPhone at this point, podcast. You can search for a few key people that communicate vision really well, that you see God giving to their church and growing their church. And what you'll hear them sharing is a lot of stories about life change, a lot of celebrations of things they had said they were going to do, and this is how it went. It's one thing to bring vision. It's so good to come back and report and tell everyone, because they all didn't go to that big thing they gave to. But you want to find ways to communicate that. Tell people how you make financial decisions, what the budget is used for. Don't tell them don't tell them all the exact numbers of who makes what on staff, because that can make them offended no matter what. If they think they're paid too much, they're offended. If they think you're paying your kids director too little, they're offended. There's hardly any place where they're happy, like, I'm not offended at that number right now. You just don't get that, okay? So in those general conversations, different churches have different things in their bylaws about how they share those things, but be sure to have some kind of means that you're regularly communicating about online and recurring giving. Many churches have seen up to 60-70% of their giving now is online or recurring. There's hardly any checks or cash going through now to a lot of churches. And preach stewardship series and messages. Don't just dodge it. And change it up with people. I would tell you, when it comes to this area of church, when it comes to budgets and believing God to continue bringing in the provision for the vision, change it up once in a while on them. If you do offering at the end, on the day you preach on tithing, do offering it before you preach on it. You know what that does? It disarms them. Like, I say it. I'm like, after we've done the offering early in service, and I preach on tithing, I said, now I bet you think we're going to pass the buckets again, don't you? But no, we're not going to do that. This is a heart issue. This is, we did offering today just so you'd know that we're not trying to make you give compulsively. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to be manipulative today. So change some things up on them. Change some things up and bring that. And then however you do offering your church, communicate life change, communicate vision, communicate scripture. Find a good balance of those things, and just believe for God to do great things. So that's the piece on church budgets, just the snapshot of being excellent in that area of church.